guys, it's Megan. So I am going to do another finance video. I am having so much fun doing these and your feedback has been amazing, and I learned so much just from watching my own video back because I don't plan like exactly what I'm going to talk about in these videos, so I will just say things that it's almost like I'm teaching myself when I rewatch it. So it's helpful to me just to do this like whole stream of consciousness type of thing, but also trying to just spark ideas in you as well. But it's also helping me realize how I feel about money and just different things that I might not have realized consciously yet, but that when I say it out loud, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing. So it's just been really cool to do these, and today I wanted to focus on saving, and I'm going to give you my tips on how I save like a badass, because saving has been something that I really had to train myself to do. It's not something that I had just naturally inside of me. I've always been more geared towards spending. Even when I was a kid, I would always, like, once I would get allowance money, I would go out and like buy a Barbie or like whatever I would buy as a kid, and then that transitioned into when I was a teenager and when I had part-time jobs and then a job in college. I was always just thinking about what I was going to buy with that money that I earned. And now that I am so fortunate to have my first full-time job out of college, I am really pleased to say that I have finally taught myself how to effectively save my money, and it feels so much better than shopping ever has. Seeing my savings accounts grow, it just feels amazing, and it's really preparing me for my future. And what I try to tell myself when I get a little itch to shop is that I would rather put money into savings, which will allow me to either retire earlier or be able to just enjoy life better further down the line. So if I'm buying, say, a new lipstick or something, which maybe I need another lipstick in the future when I don't have 5 million, but right now I do have 5 million, so I don't need another lipstick. And if I don't need another lipstick, I can put that $10, $20, $30 into my savings, watch it grow, get interest on it, or watch it compound in the stock market, and then boom, I have like $100 or something down the line when I finally am ready to spend that money. So it's all about paying yourself first. And these aren't tips that I invented. These are all things that I've learned through other blogs or other just advice from people that I know, but I have practiced them very, very hard over the past, I would say, 6 to 8 months. And I feel very confident telling you guys my experience with saving because I feel very passionately about it, and I think that I'm doing a really good job at it. So once I get my paycheck, which I get directly deposited into my account, I have a little budget that I just wrote it on a piece of notebook paper that I always have in my planner, and I have a salaried position, so my paycheck is always steady. Every other week I get the same amount. But I know when I was working in retail and even when I had my college job, it wasn't regular hours. So I don't have experience budgeting when it is that variable rate. So I know that there's plenty of people that do, and I'm sure that you can find tips on that. It's just impossible for me to give advice about that because I don't have that situation right now. But if you do have a salaried income or a steady income where you pretty much know more or less what you're going to make every paycheck, having a budget is seriously life-changing. And I don't mean you have to put every single penny that you make into a different category, but I would say put pretty much every penny into a category. And right now I don't have too many extra expenses because I'm fortunate enough to still be living at home, and it's really enabled me to save a lot more than I would if I was living by myself and having to pay rent or a mortgage or whatever it is. So pretty much my entire budget is into different savings categories. So I have that all figured out. I have almost all of my paycheck into different categories, and I do figure in gas money, groceries, and spending money. But then, and also like subscriptions. So say if you do Hulu or Netflix or Birchbox, or I use Adobe Premiere Pro for my editing software, and that's a monthly subscription. Or if you do Blue Apron or different types, there's a subscription for everything. So definitely figure those into your budget, because if you don't, you'll be like, wait a second, I thought I had more money than that. But those subscriptions usually take directly out of either your credit card or debit card or bank account, whatever, if you're using PayPal. So always figure those in as well. So those are my like spending categories, and I'm going to use that money over the next 2 weeks to pay for those costs. And in my spending, I consider that to be any extra costs. So if I go and buy clothes, that comes out of my spending. If I buy a eyeshadow, that goes out of my spending. If I buy shoes or if I buy DVDs, that all goes out of spending. And I know in some budgets, it's more specific. They want you to say, like, I spent this on clothes and I spent this on beauty and personal care. I don't do it that specifically just because I don't have regular spending in those categories anymore. If I would have done a budget with my beauty, like a very strict budget, I would have probably had a beauty category or a clothing category. But right now, because I'm not really shopping like at all, which is, you guys know, that's a huge lifestyle change for me. I just have a spending category. So anything, like if I go out to dinner, that's also in the spending, because it's just that extra money that I would need to do something in addition to just my normal everyday life, which is pretty much always very inexpensive because I just go to work and come home most days. So I have those like spending categories that I chose that work for myself. Everyone will have different categories, but really look at your paycheck and look at your spending, and hopefully you'll have a bank statement or a credit card statement that kind of will allow you to see what you're spending money on and how much every other week or every month, how much you're using in different categories, because that's how I decided I have to put aside $50 for gas or this much for groceries and stuff like that. So just looking at your past spending will help you decide what you need to budget for your current, like, new awesome budget that's gonna help you save like a badass. Something I just remembered that really helped me understand where my money was going in terms of my credit card payments, so like extra spending money, was I have the American Express Blue Cash Everyday card, which is awesome if you want a cashback card. I never thought I would get an Amex because you typically have to pay a yearly fee, which I think is crazy to pay a yearly fee for a credit card. But the Blue Cash Everyday, you don't have any fees tied to it. It's just like a normal credit card, but you get the great customer service of American Express. So you get cash back 1% on everything, 2% on gas, and some department stores even give 2% cash back, and then 3% on groceries. So that's awesome to get money back just from your normal spending, because I'll put all my spending on my credit card to get the cash back and of course pay it off every month. But it was awesome to see at the end of 2015 they made like a report for everyone that had a credit card with them, and it showed you your top places that you spent money, and it showed you how much money you spent at those places. So I was so freaked out when I saw like Sephora, Nordstrom, Ulta, all like way above any other thing, even way above gas. And obviously the things that I'm buying at Sephora and Ulta and Nordstrom are not necessities. They're just extra things that I wouldn't have to buy normally. especially because I have so much beauty stuff already. It's not like I was buying necessity things, just replenishing them. No, it was like way excessive spending. So that was a huge wake-up call to me, and I'm not sure if every credit card has a yearly report like that. I hope that they do, because it was very eye-opening, and every month it shows me on my statement like this little circular graph, and it shows me spending, gas, grocery stores, things like that. And so I'm trying to have that circle be more even. Before, it was like so much spending and it was like nothing anywhere else because I was spending gobs of money just shopping, and I am really trying not to do that. So definitely check if your credit card gives like monthly reports or yearly reports, because it was really, really helpful to see where my money was going and to understand the extent that my shopping addiction had gotten to. It was a huge, huge, huge wake-up call, and I'm so glad that they provided that, because it was very necessary for me to like snap out of it. So you have all those spending categories, but you're not worrying about those first, because you want to pay yourself first and do all of your savings. You want to put that money away before you even touch that spending money. Because even if I would put money away in savings, I would still be thinking about, oh, well, I can't wait to go shopping with what's left. Now I've completely changed my mindset, and it's made it a lot easier. And I do want to do a whole video on that, because it's not something that you can just teach someone else. You can't force someone to change their shopping habits or their spending habits or even their savings habits. Like, they just have to learn it on their own, and you just have to learn it on your own. I am so thankful that I learned this and had a total wake-up call, and it's so much more important to learn it yourself. I think with anything in life, if you're trying to change your habits and your lifestyle, someone can tell you to change those things as many times as they want, but it's not gonna really change you. You have to change yourself, and once you do, it's a lot easier to overcome your spending addiction or just different things that were roadblocks for you before. So, okay, so you have your budget. The biggest thing for me in my budget is my savings categories. So I have 4 or 5 savings categories. My debt that I have is my student loan payments. So I give the most towards my student loans. I also am saving for a new car. I'm saving for short-term, long-term, and emergency fund. So I have 5 savings categories in my budget. And then I have 3 savings accounts. That has made a huge difference for me. So I have my student loans, my car savings, and my short-term savings in one account. And I do want to separate those eventually, but they're all within my credit union, so I just have one savings account right now. So those are all in one, but when I transfer my money from my spending to my savings, I always type a little memo on that, and I put student loans, or I put new car, or I put short term. So those 3 are directly linked to my spending account within my bank. Then I have 2 separate that are in a BARCLAYS account. So I have one BARCLAYS account and then 2 savings accounts within that BARCLAYS account. So I have a dream account, which is awesome. It gives you 1.05% APR. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So it's a pretty high interest rate for a savings account. I did a lot of research on high yield savings accounts when I was deciding to put these more in the future type of savings goals away into. So I chose the BARCLAYS Dream account because it was known to be a really great account. It gave you a nice interest rate, stuff like that. So I have 2 separate accounts, my long-term and my emergency fund. I really, really believe in an emergency fund, and I've read a lot of other financial people really encouraging people, even if you just put $5 in or $10 in or $100 or $500, whatever you can manage every paycheck or every month, to put towards what you cannot see coming in the future. Like, you don't know what the future holds, and there will always be something pop up that could be a huge expense that you never anticipated. So having an emergency fund as this incredible cushion to fall back on, say, God forbid, you lose your job, to have an emergency fund where you have money that you can fall back on, and maybe you have a month or 2 months or 3 months of savings in there, that could make a huge difference in if you lose your job or if you have an accident or need a new car or whatever. So I've read anywhere from 3 to 6 months of your living expenses saved up in an emergency fund is like the goal. Like, that would be, you would pretty much be set if anything happened to your job or anything like that. So I'm working on getting that up to that level, and it's been a lot easier than I expected with all these savings accounts, because I do have my budget figured out. And so once I get my paycheck in my direct deposit, I immediately look at my budget and I put all the savings things into, I do the transfer of the money, I put this there, and I have it all figured out at the very first thing that I do. Then say my credit card statement is due or whatever, then I pay with what's left in my spending account. I use that to pay my credit card. And always pay your credit card off every single month. And I know that some people, they have a lot of credit card debt, and that is what you would be probably focusing on if that was your main trouble area. My trouble area is my student loans. So once you have your priorities figured out of what you want to save for, that is what will lead your budget. So my priority, like I said, is my student loans. I put a much larger percent of my paycheck towards my student loans, and then much lower percentages I distribute throughout all my other savings accounts. So for me, I know my priority, and it's a pretty clear priority. When I finally pay off my student loans, which will not be for a long time, but I'm definitely working hard at it, then I'll have to reevaluate, well, what's my priority now? Maybe it's saving for my kids' college, or saving for a house, or saving for something else, saving for retirement. And I have not been in my job for a year yet. I will be at the end of March. And that's when I'll start to have my 401k. I'm so excited. I cannot wait. And I definitely want, once I'm more familiar with doing the whole 401k thing, and I learn more about stocks, and I am just better at understanding what all of that is about, I definitely want to do like a crash course video on those things, because I pretty much know nothing right now, and I can't wait to learn. So that's going to be in the future. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm really excited about it. So prioritize, make your budget, pay yourself first with your paycheck. And a lesson that I learned from myself from all my years of trying to save, but always pretty much failing miserably at it, was that I would put too much into savings. Like, I wouldn't think about my spending needs or my spending habits at the time. And so I would say, oh, I made this much, I'm gonna put like 80% of it into my savings, which sounds great. Like, wow, you're saving 80%, that's amazing. But then at that time in my life, I was spending much more than just 20% of my paycheck. And thankfully I didn't have credit cards or anything like that, because that could have been a really big, like, slippery slope in my life. But so I would spend way more than 20% that I had left of my paycheck. And so I would have to pull out of the savings that I just put in there to pay for what I wanted to buy. So I was constantly putting in savings way more than I was able to do, and then I would be taking out. So everything would be fluctuating, and it was a terrible thing to see my savings bank account really just being so fluctuating at all times, and I couldn't count on having money in there because I couldn't control my spending. And that is something that I'm just so unbelievably thankful that I'm over that, and I hope that this sticks because it has taken a huge weight off my shoulders because I was my own worst enemy when it came to spending. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. Now, even just buying like little things here and there, I'm like, why would I do that when I could save that money and put it towards something else? It's just a huge mental change that I have for my entire like lifestyle and where I want to go in life, that it's amazing to get to this point, and I really hope everyone that's trying to get on this saving path instead of spending every penny that you make, I hope that you get to this point because it's really like your life changes and it's awesome. Okay, so you're going to prioritize your savings goals, decide what is most important to you to save for at this point in your life, to make a budget based on what you can feasibly manage. Don't put 90% of your paycheck into savings if you know that you have to live on more than 10%. If you can live on 10% of your paycheck, go for it. Put 90% into your savings. That is incredible. But if you're not at that point, you will not succeed at living at 10% of your paycheck if you have not built up or got to that point mentally in practice. It's a lot easier to say in theory that you can live on 10% than to actually be able to do it, because there's so many things that you have to pay for in life and some that you don't expect coming up. So don't put more than you actually can away in savings. Every little bit counts. I've got to this point of saving way more than I ever have been before by slowly working my way up in terms of savings. I didn't start out with my budget at allocating as much as I do now towards my savings goals. I worked my way slowly up, starting with like $50, $100, and I've worked my way up in different categories to be able to know that I could, yes, I can do 50, yes, I can do 100, and still have money that I can live off of, my living expenses, my fun money, different things like that. But once you figure out like this sort of habit, your gas money, once you figure out your routine, you'll be able to much more confidently increase your savings amounts and goals, because you will know that you can definitely do it, at least for the most part. You never know what's going to happen, and maybe you'll have to lower those numbers, and I've had to do that every now and then, but I've always tried to stay at a pretty steady rate. And if it's too high, I at one point had my student loan payment just a little too high. Then instead of lowering that, because that is my debt, I lowered my other, some of my other accounts to have less money going towards long-term or my new car, but staying at that nice high level for my student loans. So it's all about trial and error, but always staying within your means. You don't want to save more than you make because you still need money to live off of. And these are just things that I have learned from other people, but then also just from doing it myself. And there's definitely been tons and tons of errors that I've made, especially before really getting into finances. When I wasn't interested in this at all, it was a lot harder. But reading more finance related blogs and talking with you guys about different finance things, it's really encouraged me to always learn and always try to figure out what's going to work best for me. And I can only recommend what I've tried, and this is what has helped me save my money. And it's really everything that I've talked about. It all comes down to your mental space. You have to be ready for a lifestyle change if you have had spending habits like I have. Some people, they are just naturally good at saving money. My sister, for example, incredible at saving money. Me, never have been. I thought I never would be, but I changed my ways and I feel like a new person because I never thought I would be able to do this successfully, and I definitely have you guys to thank for encouraging me and for giving your tips on how you've been able to save or spend less, or different things that you have accomplished by saving your money more than you've spent it. And that's just really inspiring to me. And that's really my goal with sharing these videos and my thoughts with you guys, is I hope to just inspire one of you. And even if you don't do the same steps that I have done, just to encourage you to maybe save a little more or spend a little less, or just think about how you are using your money and if it's in a smart way. I know I have not typically spent my money or saved my money in a very smart way, but I have really tried to train myself to be a lot smarter and conscious about money. And even though money is, it's a very stressful topic, and I get really freaked out when I think about taxes and just all the things that you'll have to pay for in life. It really, really stresses me out. But now that I know that I'm in a much better situation just with my own mental idea of what I want to do with my money, it makes me feel so much better. If I was still shopping as much as I did even just a few months ago, I can't even tell you how stressed out I would be. I would just be freaking out even more than I already am. And it's, like I said, such a weight off my shoulders to not have to worry about myself like that, because I'm the only one that can change my spending habits. My parents telling me, my friends telling me, you guys telling me, that isn't gonna stop me or anyone else from choosing what to do with their own money. You have to decide on your own, and I decided on my own that it wasn't healthy for me to do it, and it wasn't good for me in the present day, let alone me in the future when I actually need that money. And I hope to not regret things that I purchase now that I know better, and now that I know that what I spend now will still affect me in the future. So I don't know if this was helpful at all. I hope that it was. It's hard to talk about savings without giving exact numbers when I don't feel comfortable doing that, just because I think that you don't need my exact numbers to know the basic ideas of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So make a budget, prioritize what is most important to you in terms of saving. Every little bit counts, and don't allocate more than you can save, and you will learn what that level is and you'll figure out the balance. So those are my basic tips. I hope that if you got anything out of this, that you will start to save like a badass as well. It's incredible to see your bank accounts grow, and I can't wait to start putting money into investment funds and stuff and see that money compound over time. I'm just really, really excited about it. So like I said, you'll definitely hear more about that when I am more experienced with my 401k and stuff like that. So those will definitely come in the future. But I just really appreciate you guys being here and being excited about this as much as I am. It's really awesome to have you here. So thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your tips in the comments below, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.